is all I care to do. You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for...
What can we do to keep our kids away from porn? Things that make you go. This is Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I'm Noreen Daly, and to talk about such a delicate topic is a pornography addiction coach, betrayal trauma coach, and a four-time author. Welcome, Joshua Shea.
Thank you so much for having me, Noreen.
So, Joshua, let's get right into it. What can we do to keep our kids away from porn, and why should we keep our kids away from porn? What and why?
Well, first, we need to reach a logical conclusion. And the logical conclusion is it's not a matter of if your children will see porn. It's a matter of when. You can put all of the filters you want on their phones. There's 5 billion phones on Earth. You're locking one down. Thanks. Plenty of pornography out there. They're going to see it eventually. So what you need to do is educate your child. I'm not saying don't put those things on there. I'm not saying don't, try to make your house porn proof. I'm just saying you cannot make your child porn proof in this day and age. So you need to educate them along the way as well. And I think that, if we just take simple things about how we know children develop and how children learn, we can provide very age-appropriate lessons as they grow. What parents have to recognize is that the don't look at porn speech is not the birds and the bees speech. It is, It doesn't have to be graphic. You and I have been talking for a while before we were filming this. We didn't get graphic about pornography one time. You don't have to be graphic when you're talking about this stuff. It's not about how babies are made. It's about the fact that there is this stuff out there and we need to protect our children from it. So when I believe if a child is, say, 4 or 5 years old, right before school age, that's probably the time to let them know that it's inappropriate for anybody to ever take a picture of them without their clothes on. And it's also inappropriate for them to take a picture of anybody else without their clothes on. And it's not okay for people to look at them without their clothes unless it's, mommy or daddy. And if anybody ever talks about that, just come tell mommy and daddy and let it go at that. You've given them the lesson for the year, and that's a really important lesson. And kids at that age want to learn. They want to do right by you. So they're going to take that in. Next year, as they start school, maybe they're in kindergarten. That's probably the time to say, listen, if you have a friend on the bus or in class who has a phone or who has a tablet and you see pictures of grown-ups without their clothes on, you should make sure you tell the teacher. And then when you get home that day, make sure you tell mommy or daddy, because, the grown-ups are supposed to protect you from this stuff. And we don't want you to have to look at this stuff because it's not for little kids' eyes. Just like beer isn't for little kids' lips. This is not for little kids' eyes. And you can progressively make it a little bit more, introduce the word pornography when they're 9 or 10, because they're going to start hearing it more at that age. And I think that this slow progression ends right about 11 years old, where most boys start seeing pornography for the first time. And I think that the best thing that we can do before they enter the years where they are most likely to get addicted to pornography is to teach the boys about porn-induced erectile dysfunction. If we can show them and prove to them that if you use too much of this stuff, technically it breaks your penis. I think that's going to help a lot because 11-year-old, 12-year-old boys, they're not looking to have sex. They want to have a girlfriend. They want to have a girl's hand to hold. They want to have a girl maybe they can steal a kiss from. They're not thinking about things they'll be thinking about in 3 or 4 years. But if they can't get any of that stuff, they have pornography. And they need to be taught at that early age when they are going to become addicted that this stuff can potentially be very bad for you. I'll tell you the rate of erectile dysfunction in men who were 20 years old 25 years ago was between 2 and 4%. The most recent statistic I saw, I think, was 2021. It was between 20 and 25% of men who are 20 years old have erectile dysfunction. That's only in 25 years we've seen it explode like that. What else have we seen explode, sexually speaking, in that time? Online pornography. I think there's a direct correlation between the two. I think it's obvious. I can't imagine it would be anything else that's happened in the last 2 decades that would cause this. And I think we need to let 11 and 12-year-old boys know this. Hey, guess what? 1 out of 5 guys who uses this, well, their penis is not going to work correctly. See if you can get a girlfriend then.
There are, and I think it goes, across cultures and across classes as well. There are some households where people feel as if it's okay, regardless of the age. We're all so let me give you a scenario. So extended family, so it's different, you have different age groups.
Yeah.
So you probably have maybe 1 or 2 rooms. So more often than not, with the different age groups, you might end up having sometimes the older ones undressing in front of the younger ones, and of course vice versa. But to everybody, regardless of what might be happening in terms of the different stages, in their minds, this is healthy, this is okay because we're all family.
Yeah.
But yet, somehow it could border on even being classified as pornography. True?
I think it depends. I think
okay?
Again, this goes back to intent.
Okay.
Does your family make a big deal about it? Is your family constantly talking about your sex organs while you're naked?
Okay.
Are you talking about sex? Or are you taking your shirt off, getting a clean shirt, putting your shirt on, and moving on with your day like it's not a big deal? To me, that's not pornographic whatsoever. That's real life.
Okay. Because I wanted to say that because I wouldn't want somebody watching or listening to get the impression that, you're saying that I shouldn't be that way when in my mind it's just us as family just living, basically.
Pornography and nudity are different things.
Good. Okay.
Pornography has an intent behind it.
Okay.
Nudity is just lack of clothes.
Okay. I wanted to make that distinction.
No, I appreciate that too.
I find a lot of times that if we're not careful, people go to extremes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So it's either this or this, and right. Okay.
Hi, I'm Josh Shea, pornography addiction and betrayal trauma coach and author of 4 books. I'm here with Noreen Daly on her podcast, Making It Last. Let's take a break and hear a word from our partners.
Last is all I care to do. You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with 0 added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors. Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-876-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-876-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
Is that true?
Langdo Language Institute was created to meet your language and communication needs. All of our packages were created just for you. We are passionate about language and dedicated to your success. We offer the CSEC English program, the Study Buddy program, the Get Ahead with English program, and the Business Communication program. Contact us at 767-285-0938 or email us at langdolanguage@gmail.com. Because the real question is, how can we help you?
Last is all I care to do. You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Joshua Shea, pornography addiction and betrayal trauma coach and 4-time book author. Let's continue our conversation.
So, making that distinction clear, though, a lot of what you said would be things for parents to say to their child in terms of helping them. So, for the non-parents like myself, who sometimes are around little ones, what is your advice for us to then help the parents in terms of keeping our kids away from porn?
Just take the kid for a month. You can tell them whatever you want.
Okay.
That's as a parent he's speaking.
Okay.
No, I think that what you have to do is understand before you say anything. You have to understand what the parents believe. What is their value set? How are they teaching the child? If you feel the need to say anything about it at all. And if the child asks you something about pornography and you're not comfortable with it, well, that's why they have parents. Mommy and daddy will answer this for you when they get back. I think that what you just have to basically do is be a mirror to what the parents' values are, and the really big questions pass back to the parents. If the parents are not doing anything and you can tell it's a real mess, I'd say play it by ear and make sure that the child is at least literate in that department, knows the names for body parts and whatnot. But again, I would be very careful pushing your value system if it's slightly different from your sister or brother and their husband or wife.
Right. I wanted to mention that because the reality is that at some point, kids aren't only around their parents, they're around other adults as well. So I'd want to ensure that we cover that as well so that people feel that, okay, I still have a role to play in this, because more often than not, some people just say, no, the parents should deal with that.
Right. And there are also things that you can do. Like if, you hear your 13-year-old nephew using a bunch of derogatory words about a woman, I think it's your place to step in as the aunt and as a woman to set his ass straight. I think you've got every right to do it there. I think when it comes to sexual values, though, you do have to kind of defer to the parents a little bit more than some of these other societal things that we feel safer telling other people what we think about.
Yeah. I'm going to backtrack a bit because one of the things you started out saying, and to me, I think it's somewhat scary. You started out saying that at some point, the child will basically encounter porn.
Absolutely.
That's not comforting.
It's real, though. You know, my dad, who's in his, mid-70s, tells stories of being in school in the 1950s and hiding under his desk for fear of nuclear war. That was just the reality then, and they dealt with it. This is just our reality these days, and we need to deal with it. We can't keep going around pretending that nobody looks at pornography. We can't keep going around pretending that nobody satisfies themselves to pornography. And if we can admit that the youngest among us are completely going unchecked with this stuff, and it's starting to cause some effects and some problems, this is where we need to be right now. This is what we have to start doing. Last statistic I'll throw at you, scariest one that I've seen in the last 3 years. 91.5% of men in this world who use the internet look at pornography at least once a month. 60.2% of women in the world that use the internet look at pornography at least once a month. You are far, far, far more rare if you actually don't look at pornography. And we know that usually goes along with self-pleasuring. So I think it's safe to say almost all of those people did that as well. It's fine if you don't, and it's fine if you do. We need to grow up, recognize that we're in a different world, and we're going to have to start having some different conversations about this stuff.
There is a parent who will watch or listen to this, and they will think, you want me to have a difficult conversation with my child, and I feel that if I do that, I might then introduce them to something they haven't already been introduced to. What's your response to that?
You probably have introduced them to bleach and they didn't go crazy drinking it. I would say you've introduced them to all kinds of dangerous stuff, and they're just fine. I think you're probably making an excuse for yourself why you don't want to do it.
For a lot of persons, Joshua, sex, anything connected to sex, because of how they've been socialized, and whatever reason, it's not the easiest topic to talk about. So for an adult, whether parent or otherwise, who will say, Joshua, I'm really not comfortable talking about this, and much less to my child. What's your advice for somebody like that?
I would say go on to YouTube and find a video of someone who's a 30-year-old man or woman talking about their pornography addiction. And then recognize that if you're teaching your children to stay away from drugs, from alcohol, from other things that could cause addictions, from other things that could harm them, then you really have a duty to add pornography to that list. You can hope that everything will end up okay if you ignore it, but we're in a world that ignored it right now. And we've got millions of people on OnlyFans now making pornography because it's no big deal. We've got millions of people on cam sites making pornography because it's no big deal. Nothing to say about how the numbers of people watching are growing and growing and growing. We can stick our heads in the sand if you want, but we have seen what happens when we do that. We did that with the opioid crisis in the 1980s. We should have saw that coming. Heroin was a thing back in the 60s, and all of the different pills like Vicodin were things in the 80s. We knew this stuff existed. We ignored the opiate crisis because we decided that the people who used Those kinds of drugs were the gross people, the bad people. They lived on the wrong side of town. They're not us, so we don't have to worry about them. Now you fast forward, if you remember, before the pandemic, the opioid crisis was all anybody could talk about as far as politicians go, because it finally got politically favorable for them to talk about it. It's not politically favorable. Hell, it's not even favorable in society to talk about pornography. But we're going to have to start. And again, that's just the world that we face right now. We don't have to discuss our favorite scenes of pornography or the stuff we watched or who our favorite stars are or any of that stuff. We just have to talk about how we can educate people to use it correctly or not use it whatsoever and make that an educated decision.
Joshua, I think that's an excellent note to end on. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you very much for having me, Noreen.
This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Last is all I care to do. You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers.